Not yet. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Interviews with everyday people. We are back. Episode 125. Richard Barth. I should have put Richard Barth part 2.
Part 2.
This would be part 2.
3 years later.
3 years later. So you were episode 13.
13.
And now you're at 125.
There should be a trophy for the top 20. I mean, it's been so long.
It's been a long time. There's a lot of people from the early days that I want to bring back on because I think our equipment has gotten better, and hopefully I got better as an interviewer.
Oh.
I hope after 100 and some episodes, right? But before we get into that, I do want to get the housekeeping out of the way. So if you guys are watching live, please help us with a share. Let people know that this is on. The live chat is open. You can interact with us in the live chat. We can pop your little comments up. It's really fancy.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cool things. So if you're just watching, just say hi. Just say hi to us. That's the algorithms are nice when people are watching and commenting and interacting, and then Facebook goes, "Oh, this is doing well. Let's put more eyes on it." So yeah, all that stuff helps. So if you guys are out there, that'll be great. Let's read our first sponsor here. The Tree of Life Shop is the largest metaphysical store in our area, offering a wide range of holistic, new age, spiritual items and supplies, unique gifts, raw and tumbled crystals, essential oils, teas and herbs, books, tarot and oracle cards, journals, and so much more. They offer services like Reiki, crystal healing, and cranial sacral, ionic foot detox, and ear candling, hypnotherapy, and past life regression sessions. Book reading with our intuitive tarot reader. Have your tea leaves read, palm readings, and they host weekly and monthly events and group classes. There's something for everybody. Or would you like to host your own private party themed with your friends? Painter sips, crafting nights, birthday nights, girls' night out, or bridal showers, and more. If you come up with an idea, they'll do their best to provide you a magical night. Located in the mystical valley of Ringtown School County, check them out on the web, treeoflifeshop.com. That's going to be SHOPPE.com, or on Facebook and Instagram at Tree of Life Shop. Use the code IwEP on the website, or mention IwEP at checkout at the store for 30% off your products. Discount one per customer. You can also call them at 570-741-3574. Who is messaging me? Don't do that right now. All right. Anyway, that's our odd. And then we do have our Patreon. It goes from $1 to $25, whatever people can do. Anything over $10, you're on the running every month for a free t-shirt giveaway. So we want to thank our people who help out with the monthly subscription over on Patreon. Ryan Box from Outbreak Wrestling, David S, Brett Squared from the Cake Stand in Monty City, Bridget M, Andrew H from Bang & Beers Podcast, Greg R, Heidi B from Not Colon High School Podcast, Ryan G from the Fueled by Hots Podcast, Kelly from Crystal Mountain Healing and the Truth Behind Illusion, Tree of Life Metaphysical Shop, Tommy B, Brad Z, Higher Than Other Words, and JH. So thank you guys so much for the monthly donation. It helps pay for things like StreamYard and Adobe and all this fun editing software I use, and it helps save us up for equipment in the future. So thank you all for that support. We do also on the IwEPnetwork.com. You can check out the rest of our podcasts as well as our merchandise pages. So if you want to get cool things like t-shirts and hoodies and all that great stuff, it's all on there. If you don't have money to support that way, a like, a share, and telling your friend about the podcast always helps, and it's awesome as well. So housekeeping out of the way. We're done.
Was there any sponsors? Episode 13?
No,
I don't know.
There was no sponsors.
It's come a long way.
We have come a very, very long way. And there's more sponsors too. If you go to our website, the tab that shows sponsors, there's a lot of other people, like there's a lot of small businesses I have on there. So definitely go check out the sponsor tab. I work really hard on that website, so definitely go and check it out. It's a cool thing. So first one, who's that hot guy you're interviewing today?
Oh,
Gabby.
See, that's why I'm getting everything shut down, because she's still looking for others, or if I have my last kid, she can go out, leave me alone in there. So see,
shutting down the baby factory. So congratulations, to Gabby. We just kind of talked off camera, but congratulations on the new additions coming. The heart on Facebook from Gabby, and Christian with the haha face. I don't know why Christian really did a haha face, but I'll take it. Yeah. It's interaction.
It's a response.
It's a response.
There you go.
Maybe we're funny already.
Hey,
maybe it's my face. You're the handsome one. I'm the train wreck. But here we go. It's been almost 3 years.
3 years.
Episode 13, lucky 13.
Right. Yeah.
What has changed since then, man?
More babies.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Between then, like I said, I will have my third girl we were shooting for a boy.
It's not in the cards.
It's not in the cards. No. So yes, the third girl will be part of the family come June-ish, the middle end of June. My older daughter has gotten older. My youngest has gotten older, and I've gotten older, maybe less wiser, But yeah, more kids. The whole rigmarole with COVID went through, job changes, hobbies. The new one being jiu-jitsu now.
Sick.
Yeah, it's
where you training
outlet. I was training at Schuylkill County 3G out in Orgsburg.
Okay.
Brian is the head instructor out there. Great group of guys. I'm only 6 months in. Lately, I took a month break off, which was a no-no.
Shouldn't do that?
No, I shouldn't have done that because I paid for it when I went back to the academy I'm at now. Is BOA Jiu-Jitsu. That's in Orgsburg as well. Seth Thomas leads that one. He's a great instructor, but I took a month off, went back there, talked to Seth. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to roll around. And if anyone knows anything about jiu-jitsu, I just got bent up like a pretzel. When I was in the 6 months isn't long. I did one competition in Allentown in Fuji. I got a gold, but
sick.
Let's not like celebrate too much. There was one guy in my weight class because the competition was after New Year's, so I only fought one guy twice, but I still won. Then I took that month off. I went back last week.
You're like, I'm gold.
Yeah. Well, that was my thing. I said, I got gold. I don't need to do this anymore. I'm a champion. I'm like,
retire at top.
If I would have got silver or bronze, I'm like, I have to go back. But as soon as I won the gold, I told Gabby I'm retiring. And that was it.
Retire at best. And then just hold on to that forever.
It's
I don't know if you guys heard in the bar. Finished gold in my weight class.
That's what it was. But I got a lot of slack because there wasn't multiple opponents. But that was a new one. I went back. I got bent up like a pretzel last week because I was in better shape than what it was. Because jiu-jitsu, if you know anything, flexibility is a grand part. And at 35 years old, flexibility wasn't my strong suit. Yeah. But at a time, I was able to be real flexible and handle myself with a lot of guys that I had trained with. Taking a month off, everything kind of constricted back to a point where it didn't need to be bent. So so I'll go back tomorrow. I'll go back Wednesday, and I'm shooting for another competition next month.
How many days a week are you training?
Well, when I was at my former academy, probably like 4 times a week.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking about
and Orgsburg's not a easy, like a quick drive.
No, and I was helping others. I was giving them rides to the academy. I mean, I went full in. I mean, if you look back at the last podcast, we had depression and mental mental illness and not illness, but the challenges there, and I'm sure we'll talk about. It was a great outlet for me. You might not think it, but fighting someone else and looking to get choked out every night when it's
fighting for your life.
Fighting for your life when you're doing something that's a struggle or it's hard, actually alleviated a lot of the mental issues that I was battling. So I was going Monday nights, I was going Wednesday mornings, Wednesday nights. And then the instructor at the time's like, hey, can you come in the mornings? Yeah, I can. Like 3, 4, 5. I was living there. When I was rolling, I was loving it. I had a little falling out and stuff, but I knew in that month off that it wasn't the right move to make because of that month off was due to mental issues that I was battling in myself. Yeah. So I was like, maybe jiu-jitsu isn't the answer. Maybe I just need some time off. And it definitely did not help to take time off.
Yeah, I think having a hobby definitely helps. Finding something you're passionate about, something you can kind of your escape. Right. So I think if anyone's life is wake up, go to work, kids, eat, like just like your like basic living life and work, and that's all your thing is like I feel like you have like now if you're passionate and just like, hey, my focus is my children and watching their passions, that's great. I don't know that experience. I don't have any kids, right? But I think you have to have an outlet outside of your norm that you're like, all right, this is my escape. This is what I do for my happiness. Even if it's like, you know what I mean? Like, will it ever go anywhere? I don't know, but fucking, I need something to make my own. Like if it's painting, crafting, if you just want to cut paper into squares all day long, like, you know what I mean? Like just find something that makes you happy.
Well, with me, it was more, I love the struggle of everything. And it sounds bad to say, but with, if you listen to the podcast, that episode 13, what I dealt with was my kids didn't even help me out. I mean, and it's sad to say for it because people are like, you have kids, that's for living for. But when I would get in instances of severe depression, my kids didn't even bring me out of it. And it, like I said, that's rough. People are like, oh, but it was It was the truth.
Yeah.
What I found was the struggle, because when I went to jiu-jitsu, I put it off for a very long time. I would drive past her going up to Walmart, Hamburg, up in that areas ready, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I wrestled in high school and jiu-jitsu, Joe Rogan and all that. I'm like, I got to give it a shot. Joe Rogan says it's great. I got to do what Joe Rogan says. So, I went up there and I did it, and I just got my ass whooped. Like the first day I went in there, and there were guys that were bigger than me, but they were like bigger, like gut wise. So I said, I'm like, I got a 6-pack, and I did Spartan races and endurance and stuff. I just got destroyed. I got a leg bent to the back of my neck. People were throwing me over their shoulders, but then I fell in love with it. But that's always been me. I fell in love with hobbies that aren't too easy. Now, fishing, yeah, that's something else. Hunting, that's another one. But hiking, like, if you ask Gabby, when I go hiking, it would just be like, oh, I pick a point and just go up a mountain, like, and just keep going until almost I'd get lost and be like, all right, I got to backtrack. But jiu-jitsu, the struggle is where I found peace for it all. Just get manhandled, choked out, come back the next day. And the one thing that I enjoyed about it, it's in an age of instantaneous response. Like, you can get an Uber to come to your house. You can order Dunkin' Donuts and pick it up. You can basically get everything on a fingertip, just a swipe. Not jiu-jitsu. You're not going to go there and they're not going to give you you start off as a white belt, which I'm a white belt currently. I'm a 2-stripe white belt, and I've been in 6 months. And the average time and I'm going to say a lot of stupid shit that might not make sense to other people that have done jiu-jitsu for years, but average about a year for another belt color, over a year that I've seen some people. And 6 months is just battling and getting choked out. And you're literally going there to fight for your life. You learn some moves, you bullshit, ha ha. But then when the gloves come off to say, you fight, and you're just looking to pull an arm, choke this guy out, see what this body part can do. But I thrived on it and I loved it. And people are like, you pay to go get choked out. I'm like, yeah, come in. It's great. Come in. I won't do it to you. I can't promise anything else. But I agree. A hobby, and I think to that, what you said is, in this day and age, when we were kids, we didn't really know, a purpose in life or what we thought our purpose was. I didn't have a cell phone. My first cell phone was a Nokia with
you pull the antenna up.
Yeah, with a block breaker or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So information wasn't instantaneous to me. So I didn't really question a lot. Now, I went through mental and physical and emotional abuse at home, but I didn't know depression and all these. So I didn't question a lot.
Yeah.
Now what I think it is since we have so much information that's so easily accessible, people are questioning what their place is in life, and they look at their parents maybe. And like I said, this is all from my point, but they're like, well, then my mom and dad just grew up, got married early, had kids, bought a house, and now they're just working the rest of life.
Yeah, and then dad goes to work and just comes home and he's miserable.
Yeah,
he drinks beers and falls asleep on the couch.
Well, and that's how my stepfather was. He hard worker, and like I said, you would understand. Listen to that old podcast. He was a hard worker. I give him that. Snowstorm, goes to work. I don't think the man missed a work until my mother died, and then he missed a couple weeks. Always at work, but he came home and drank and drank and drank and drank. Now with people, I think everyone's looking for their place.
Yeah.
And without a hobby, people get lost, and that's great. But my hobbies have always just been, what can I do to, like, Spartan races, throw spears, jump over fire, fight gladiators. I took Gabby to one. She loved it. Jiu-jitsu, get choked out, 6 months in. And that's the thing. It's the grind, but to each is their own. But I think that's the big problem, is not enough hobbies. And I think not enough challenging hobbies. I mean, hobbies are great, but to me, if I'd cut square, I understand where you're coming from, but I think we're not as challenged as much.
Sure. Yeah. Like I miss competition, obviously, because growing up playing sports and being athletic, and before I was this fat shit, I was in decent shape, but I found podcasting. At first I was like, this is going to be a fun hobby. I'm going to do it for that. And then I got, without not saying like, oh, I'm better than everybody, but I made it a competition just for myself. Like, all right, cool. Like, how, right now, my subscriber count and my listener count's here. What can I do to make that go higher? So I'm always like, maybe I'm not doing push-ups, or I'm not going for a belt, or I'm not, but I use that as my hobby. Like, how can I get that number to this number? Or I set those goals, like, this is what I'm going to work on this week. Like, I'm going to get Instagram followers to here. And then I hit it. I'm like, fuck, all right, next goal. You know what I mean? Or here's an interview I want to do. So it is cool to set goals and achieve them. It's a good time.
Right. And you can see it by the evolution of your podcast. I mean, we were just speaking before, there were no headphones or anything.
Yeah, how's it feel hearing your own voice in your head?
Now I understand where guests were Joe Rogan, and I don't mean to bring him up, but I got in podcasts with Joe Rogan, and
that's 90% of people did.
That's why I was so excited when I'm like, he's starting a podcast, I'm getting on it. But I understand where people are like, it's weird hearing myself in my head, But to your own accord, it doesn't have to be physical. But for me, I've always been a physical person. I've always been in, shape, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I've always wrestled in Spartans and competition, and jiu-jitsu was just a new step on the ladder. But it shows. I mean, look at the evolution we were talking about your podcast.
Yeah.
And,
it's come a long way.
But I think that's the thing. It's people who are just idle now.
Mm-hmm.
And anything tough, like jiu-jitsu's tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let me tell you, I fell like head over heels with it. It's weird, and I know it's cliche about changing your life, but I was reading books, Elio Gracie and Hickson Gracie, and the history of jiu-jitsu, and I was all in it. I had like a mantle, my one medal's there, my one gold medal's there, my gi and all that stuff, and I really got into it. But I also think too much of it is could be a bad thing.
You don't want to become a dude bro.
No, and that's the thing, and that's another reason, and I won't dive too deep into it because respect out of the academies, but reason why there was a switch in the academies that I trained with, because you get too obsessed with something, then it can turn on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too much of a good thing it can be a bad thing. You drink too much water, it can be bad for you. So
Gabby says the setup looks great. Awesome upgrades. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been it's been a fun journey. I mean, probably when we talked about the podcast last time, I was probably either just starting or about to start our MMA podcast.
Yeah.
And that didn't last very long. But I was obsessed with MMA, and then I kind of shifted from being an MMA fan back to pro wrestling fan.
Right.
And a lot of people are like, well, why would you go from fake to being a real sport back to fake? And I'm like, well, I don't know, like just in recent times, MMA, right? Like the guy who was the most exciting for me at one point in time, Conor McGregor, is also the guy who probably turned me off the sport.
Right.
Because he set a trend that you can be an undisciplined asshole, and you can take this gift that you work so hard for to be a combat athlete and just go fight in the streets.
Yeah.
And now, like, you got George Masvidal fighting a guy who he'd lost a 5-round fight to outside of a steakhouse. Like, that's not like, people shouldn't join an MMA gym or a jiu-jitsu gym or a boxing gym so they can be the biggest bully or the toughest bully now, or to take that skill and take it somewhere else and not use it in the proper context.
Yep.
And I think that's awful for the sport. Like it like, and people are like, well, not everybody in fighting, they're all fighters. Like no, like there's people who've been in MMA and jiu-jitsu who are respectable human beings,
right?
And they're not going to go out there and fist fight somebody. Like, it's almost a last option thing, and it's become the thing like, I'm going to go learn MMA so I can be a bigger piece of shit. And I think that's kind of like what turned me off, like UFC and mixed martial arts. For like, listen, and not everybody in the sport is like that, but unfortunately the ones who aren't like that aren't the ones making the big monies and the ones getting the pay-per-view buys. Right. And that sucks.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, well, if I'm going to watch someone who's just going to be a gimmick and be a scumbag, at least I'll go watch someone in WWE because it's still like not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And let's not pretend that, and I know you look at MMA and that wasn't a reason for me jiu-jitsu. Now I look back at the Chuck Liddell days and Tito Ortiz, and that's when I was in. But let's not say that fights like boxing haven't been staged in a way that, I mean, yeah, you come out with some kind of super move, you knock a guy out, okay, but let's not say that in the end it's about the dollar figure.
Sure.
I mean, so that could be said to MMA, that could be said to any sport, really. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's more complicated in team sports, but like you were saying about people being
like I feel if you were in the NBA or if you were in the NFL and you incited a riot, like, I mean, I guess the Detroit Pistons kind of got away with it, but like Conor McGregor and Khabib almost could have started a giant like riot between countries. And like, they're like, all right, you can't fight for a year, but we're still going to give you all your money and all. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
But now look at Conor McGregor. I mean, he's fallen. I mean,
he's punching old dudes in bars that say his whiskey sucks. Like, what are we doing? That's not a good representation of your sport.
Anyone in that position.
I don't even watch NFL that much anymore.
No, I mean,
guys out there with ankle bracelets on.
I watch more hockey than anything.
Yeah. And they're violent, but they don't do it out. Like, you don't see hockey guys really get in trouble outside the ice.
No, I hardly see any stories about hockey players, in any limelight.
Yeah.
But like I said, like Conor McGregor, look at Ronda Rousey. I mean, in sports in general, all those figures, I don't pay mind to it because they're all going to fall from grace. Ronda did when she took that head kick from Holly Holmes, and that was it.
Yep.
And now, whatever she wants to do, she's in WWE or wherever she's at right now.
Yeah.
Amanda Nunes I follow, and some of the others. Conor McGregor, I don't pay no mind because guess what? There's always someone hungrier coming up. And look,
it's kind of dope to see Julia Pena work up.
I am super doped to see that because I haven't watched Ultimate Fighter in a while.
Yeah, and she went from a dude jumping on her back in the gym and blowing both her knees out to almost never fighting again to coming back and beating the baddest chick on the planet.
Yeah.
That's badass.
So I'm looking forward to what's going to evolve in there. But like I said, when people are like, why are you going to watch something fake? You don't know what happens behind the scenes.
It's storyline.
It's all storyline.
You know what's fake? The Avengers.
Yeah.
But I still love the story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like,
and the fight scenes are dope. That's pro wrestling.
Very dope.
Yeah.
But like you said, like bullies and stuff like that. Like, so jiu-jitsu once again, and I'll reference it because it's a big portion of my life, and we'll talk about, I'm sure the mental health aspect of it, but going to jiu-jitsu is not a place you want to come in with an attitude. Because I've gone, and once again, if any of my friends from the current academies listen to this, do not take it out on the mat on me and be like, oh, I heard your podcast, I'm gonna put you in, something. Don't do it.
Flying arm bar.
No. I've been putting arm bar. I've been putting everything. But the thing is, I've seen guys smaller than me tap out guys larger than you. I mean,
it's technique.
It's technique, and it's about patience. It's about not freaking out in a bad situation. Like in the very beginning, the first month, I had an instructor there, probably 225, 250, maybe around that. He would get on top of me. His gi would like go over my face. I'd just freak out because I wasn't used to be anything over my face. I'm like, I'm done. I'm sweaty. I'm hot.
He stinks.
All that.
No,
yeah.
I'm not saying you stink,
no. 6 months in though.
Nobody wants a sweaty guy.
No, but it happens. But 6 months later, I've had my legs bent up past my ears, and people sit on me, and I'm just sitting there like, what are we doing next?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
I'm going to wait till he shifts his body, and then I'm going to take that shift. Yep.
And all that. But I've seen guys come in multiple occasions, and I've seen videos, and I've seen that at our academy of people like, oh, I was a state champion wrestler, and they'd come in and they just get murdered. And that's what I did. I said, like, the first month, I was like, I know wrestling. I know something. And I was just charging, and I got thrown with ease. But I've seen it. And especially like that, there's no room for bullies for it. I didn't go and join to learn how to fight. Like you said, to your point.
Yeah.
Now, am fighting on the street and then it being on the mat, even with my competition thing, when it was just me and that guy, is it the same? No, because everything's just going crazy. Now, there is a statistics that say most of the fights on the street are going to end up on the ground. So do I have maybe a leg up when I get on the ground? Do I know what to pull, what to do?
Tell the dude's buddy hit you with a bottle or something.
Or he already has a brick in his hand and it's lights. But I didn't do that there. I wanted to know what it was all about, what's so obsessive about it, and what's so fun that everyone's plugging jiu-jitsu and it's literally getting choked out 90% of the time. Like, I was going home like 3 weeks later, like, Gabby, let me put you in a move. And she's like pregnant and stuff. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to figure out how to work this arm bar. And then my daughter would come in. I'd put her in like a soft like move, roll around on a couch and stuff. But yeah, to your, what you were saying before, it's just with it. If you go in with that mentality and anything that you're going to be a bully, I tell you what, I didn't know what to expect, but I was humbled.
Yeah, that's what a good MMA gym should do. They should weed those people out. But that's my fear is like people see now MMA or mixed martial arts and they're like, well, I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu and you know what I mean? I want to be the next Conor. I want to go talk shit to everybody. It's like, all right, cool. Like that's like, because he makes the most. I guess it comes down to even like podcasting, right? So anyone who is gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna talk about the most controversial thing, and I'm gonna say like, I'm gonna trash someone's business or trash another human being. Right. Of course, that's gonna get me more views, and that's the easiest way to make money and make views. But it's not my art. It's not my passion. It's not what I want to do. And maybe my path will take a lot longer than being a trash human. But more people see the success when it comes from trash, and that kind of sucks, and it ruins a very, very beautiful art form and a very beautiful sport and a very beautiful thing in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And the best thing is you didn't quit though, and I'm sure there were points just like when my journey like in jiu-jitsu, I'm like, why am I not? And that's the thing you look at. You're like, why am I not getting promoted faster? Yeah. Like, what is this guy doing? And the thing about jiu-jitsu, it's like, say you're going to learn a second language like Spanish. then you get the the basic concepts. Jiu-jitsu is like, oh, I learned Spanish. Here's French.
Yep.
And then after you're done French, like here's Italian or
here's Spanish, but you didn't learn these 3 dialects.
Advanced 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And that's the thing. If you go in the mindset with that, like obviously I'm 35. I'm not going to fight anyone. I don't want to fight. I'd rather sit, drink coffee, and read a book.
Mm-hmm.
But at that hindsight, I'd like to be that guy that is, a colored belt in jiu-jitsu, and they're like, oh, that's Rich. Oh, he does jiu-jitsu. Really? He just talked to me about some, intelligent topic. That's what I like about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, but I like the discipline that it had. But I mean, it will check your ego at the door. And there have been multiple times during jiu-jitsu that I got angry, because if anything, I have a short temper. And let me tell you what, I went into some rolls with some guys really angry, and they mopped me up.
Yeah,
I was just like, I'm going to Hulk slam this guy. And the next thing you know, they got me in a wrist lock or something, or a rear naked choke or some kind of move. And I'm like, and then at the end, I'm like, that wasn't the case. I shouldn't have done that. But, it's very humbling. And the same thing, like you said, with podcasts and stuff. Podcasts are everything nowadays. It's what I listen to at work. At
COVID, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know how many people I know started podcasts in the pre-COVID, and how many are still around?
I was gonna say, how many are still around?
Not many.
Exactly.
I just had someone who reached out to me. He started a podcast, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry I didn't get you as a guest because I realized if I wanted to be good at podcasting, it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I'm going to have to make some sacrifices." And it's going to take away from my other passion. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to play into something. I actually respect him a lot for saying it this way, because he's like, I want to do this, but I was going to use podcasting as like a side thing and not take it super serious. And then you realize, like, if you want to take it serious, you got to go. And I think a lot of people just kind of tote that line. It's like, oh, I'm not going to take this seriously. And it's just like, no, it's a passion. Like, you got to go for it. If you do anything half-assed, you're not going to, it's not going to be as fulfilling.
Well, like you said, like, shout out to, once again, Joe Rogan's podcast, but him and everyone.
I think I've listened to him in like 4 years.
Really?
I stopped listening, not because of the controversy or everything he said. It did bum me out that back in the day he would have, I felt like, legit conversations. And now I think he just panders to whoever's sitting across from him.
Yeah, I can see my biggest draw with it, like you said, like when Gabby said, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, I just want to have a conversation.
Yeah, I like that.
In today's age, an actual conversation is what I missed. It's very hard to find.
Yeah.
Everything's abbreviated. Everything's just short and simple and to the point. You hardly have a conversation. I said, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're probably just going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was my draw to Joe Rogan. He had people like, I don't know. He had Duncan.
There was a lot of good conversations and a lot of good stories. And then it turned into more agenda based.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Oh, and I guess, like, listen, the way the world was, they were talking about what was current. And I think it just got boring to me. And I was like, I don't care about Joe Rogan's take on COVID, or I don't, like, what I mean?
No.
Like, I'm over this shit.
Like, the last one I listened to was actually just the other day. Like, he has a lot of scientists on, a lot of political figures and people, but he had one with Mike Tyson. I'm like, yeah, I want to listen to Mike Tyson, because Mike Tyson doesn't have any agenda. He just wants to talk about smoking weed, what he thought about coming back, doing mushrooms, and his trips. And those were the best conversations with Joe Rogan. Him just shooting the shit with people. And that was the draw. But Joe Rogan probably, and I don't know, I'm talking on my ass, was probably an influence to a lot of people. Like, look how successful Joe Rogan was. I could be the next Joe Rogan. But like you said, like podcasting and jiu-jitsu, there were times that I was just like, I don't want to go in. And you're probably like, well, I'm not getting any growth. What's the point? But that's the difference between failure and success, is just to keep on going. And that month off, there was about a depression that I had. I was just like, you know what? I'm, low on money. Bills are getting tight. I had a fallout with my last gym. There's no point to it. I can always pick this up in a later date, but my depression had gotten worse. I wasn't not fighting, but I wasn't rolling. I wasn't with guys. I wasn't testing myself. I was eating like shit. Like, Gabby's pregnant. I had all her cravings. I still do, even though she says, like, you eat like crap. I'm like, I cleaned it up. I was eating like bags of candy at like 2 a.m. I was like getting like treat sodas and finishing them off. But it was adding to everything I was going through.
Yeah.
And I said, what's missing? And I told her one day when she came home, I'm like, I'm going back to jiu-jitsu. I got to. It was the one thing I had not the one thing. I mean, yeah, my kids do bring me happiness, but if we're talking about severe depression and mental illness, there's nothing that'll bring you out of that cave.
Mm-hmm.
My kids will come up, and it's not like I'd like backhand my kids. I'm like, get
Yeah.
away from me, I'm depressed. I'd hug them and play with them, but I was still shit inside.
Yeah.
I'd go to work, and and Gabby said that was the thing about me with that quote of Bane in the Dark Knight that says you were born in the dark. You cultivated darkness, but I was born in it. The same
Mhm.
thing, that the issues I've gone through in my life, it helped me put on that facade, that
Yeah.
perception of everything was going through. She's like, I can't tell when you're depressed unless you tell me right out, or unless I say, hey, Anthony, I'm depressed, I need someone to talk to, which hardly ever happened.
Mhm.
You would go to a bar, I'd have a drink, and then we'd have the time of our lives, but you wouldn't know that maybe like 3 hours later I was contemplating driving my car into a tree and just
Yeah.
like, that's it. But I was sitting there, I'm like, I gotta get back to it. I gotta do something, because if I sit there, which most people will, and dwell in it, and that's what eats them alive. And then it doesn't help that they have, social media can help and hinder depression or any mental illness that goes on, or any mental struggle. But that's what I needed. I said, I need to go back. I need to get choked out. And you know what? I went back last week, and I had a hell of guys. There was 29 guys there at BOA that I was with, and I got murdered.
Mhm.
I was like, hey guys, what's up? Boom. Well, I went against, it goes, white belt, blue belt, purple, brown. I probably got all that wrong. But guys like, you wanna roll? I'm like, yeah. Bent in half, you choked out, and then, Seth's like, how's it going? I'm like, I had a great time. I'm limping out the door. I still have like a back issue right now, but I feel 10 times better that I did something about it, and it was a hobby where now I don't really talk about it, but I had to go back to it.
How did the pandemic affect a lot, like your mental health, and like obviously you couldn't do gyms and stuff like that? Like what did you do during the pandemic?
When that came along, I think we were in the midst of training for another Spartan race, and it was obviously before we decided to have another kid. But I was more in the beginning, I was more concerned what was going to happen. And then our family's always been healthy, not saying my kids don't eat candy, they don't do the usual kid stuff.
Yeah.
Or I don't have the occasional junk food, vitamins, vitamin C, all that stuff like that. So when it came on, I didn't really think of my physical health, more so like keeping my house safe.
Mhm.
But as it progressed, then it was the whole cabin fever thing.
Yeah.
I lose my mind during the winter now that I just want some sunshine. And we just, 2 days ago had like a 66-degree day, and now there's like an inch of snow outside.
It's disgusting.
But during the pandemic, I really can't say that it affected me too much. I was just overly concerned. I was like, okay, well, I can't do the gym. But, a lot of people don't know is you can work out at your house.
Sure,
You can do body weight exercises, which I did. I did push-ups. Yeah, I wanted to get to the gym. I even went outside and ran when everyone was telling you go inside. But to me, it was always just finding what could work physically, even if it took my mind off of it. Video games can only do so much, and we did that, but I don't think it had a big impact on my mental health as many people had, that were locked down or were, you're frightened, which reasonably they should, and the aspects of it, but when it was all said and done, when it was over, see, with me, my depression comes, and I've been on medication. I can't even name the medication I've been on, but I've seen, people I've talked to professionally. I've been on medication from my ex-girlfriend's work. She had worked up in Hershey, and I took medication up there and talked to a professional doctor. I've talked to professional people in and out.
Mhm.
I've taken medication. None of that did anything. And there were to a point where I thought, actual prescribed medication was doing worse than helping me.
Mhm.
But at a time that I couldn't even tell if it was, because if you look back, if you listen to the old episode, my oxy addiction, I was one of those people that, I was snorting oxy.
Wow.
At the time. I got it from the Marine Corps. In the military, you can get anything with ease. So I started doing oxy, just popping them. And then when I got out, all the way up to 2014, shout out, not a shout out, but sorry, Sarah, but like I was even doing it at the start of my firstborn. I was working out of work, and I was snorting oxy up in a room at work. But at the end of it, I could just switch it off. I was like, oh, this isn't, and I know it's not easy for people to do, But I was just like, I gotta stop this.
I'm trying to kill caffeine right now. It's fucking awful.
That's coffee. If I don't know. Gabby has a Dunkin' addiction, and it doesn't help. I try to make my coffee a little healthier with honey and some creamer, but
she said we had our nieces, so our hands were full with kids during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, we
And then Brandon says, "What's up, brother? What's going on, man? Thank you for joining the conversation. If you guys have any conversations or anything you want us to talk about, please put them in the chat. We'll definitely entertain that." Yeah. The pandemic for me, man, was a blessing. I mean, obviously people died and that's awful, and people went through a lot of horrible things and are still going through horrible things. Yeah. And I don't want to discredit that at all, because it's not awesome. But for me, mental growth wise, it made me because pre-pandemic I was struggling with alcohol and pill problems, where I would just take pain pills and drink just so my body pain would go away. And then I was like, I fell off the wagon a little bit when it came to like the stretching and the yoga, but I started picking that up a little bit. And then I got a new, I don't want to say a new drug. It is a drug, but a new medication, I guess you could say. I got over to the medical marijuana.
Okay.
And it's been amazing for me with my mental clarity, with my depression, with my anxiety, with my body pain. Like I like, depending on what I do, like I could sleep at night, which is a huge game changer. Like the fact that I can take a pill or, do something and I could sleep a solid 7 hours and wake up the next day feeling like a human being, like that is a game changer. Like the only really time like I'm having a beer now, or like I'm banging beers, but besides that, I barely drink.
Right.
And it like that helped me out a lot, and not tolerating nonsense has been a big thing this pandemic. So like, and I'm still going through it, like in the past couple of months, is like, if something's not good for you, just get rid of it, dump it. It could be your best friend. If that best friend is not on the path, it is not helping you get better, or you're not helping each other evolve, or there's some detention, if a conversation doesn't fix it, dump it. I don't care if it's family, if it's friends, if it's your job. If your job does not make you happy, there's tons of jobs out there. Like I recently walked out of a job that I was there for a while, and I loved the company. I loved everybody I work with, but I wasn't going to go through the same mental stuff I went through last time from the same boss. And I decided at lunch break, I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I dipped. And sure, I needed money, and sure, I had bills to pay, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out, because my mental health and my happiness is what's important. And sometimes you got to roll that dice,
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the pandemic taught me, is just like, happiness is never going to be given to you. You have to pursue it. Like it has to be, it's something you're going to have to chase down. It's something you have to work towards. Being positive is something you have, like everything in life that's going to have an overall positive goal is going to take effort. It's easy to be negative. It's easy to be angry. It's easy. Those are emotions that that take zero effort to do, but are so draining on everything.
Oh,
yeah.
And I tried, and my experience with marijuana and stuff like that, I'm more of an edibles guy, because I just
I'm not ready for that race yet. I tried that once, and
oatmeal cream pies and stuff like that. But my issue was,
I tried RSO and freaked out inside of an apple juice.
Well, when I was like, you know what, I'm getting marijuana kick, and this was after the Marine Corps, and I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot. My two experiences with smoking marijuana was one guy that I thought was a friend had given me something that was laced.
Yeah, fuck that.
And I didn't know anything about it. I'm just like, oh, he's like, I got it from New York. I'm like, oh, New York.
No, everything I do is from the dispensary. I go through medical marijuana. It's all from the dispensary.
This was before pots, the dispensaries came in. This was probably like, so I got out 2006. This is probably 2012, maybe earlier, but I can't remember. But he's like, this came from New York. My dad got it. I'm like, oh, sure, New York's great city.
Yeah, that's
So
they're reputable people.
I ended up smoking it, and then I just melted down. And he's like, I got to take you home because I can't get my dad in trouble. So I ended up in my living room with my stepfather. And then my mom is deceased. And I'm standing in the living room looking at him. And he turns around. And he's like, you okay? Now, I started speaking like I had some speech problem. Like I couldn't form sentences. But in my head, I was forming complete sentences. It was the craziest thing. I'm like, why am I not saying what I need to say? And then like when I'd speak to my dad, I said, problem there is now. I sounded like Yoda drunk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's an issue. Yeah. And I ended up collapsing. And in a long story short, they took me to the hospital.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah. And then so fast forward to like, 2013, no, 14.
Was it PCP?
I don't even know what he didn't even tell me. He didn't want to tell me.
That's usually a fun thing they like to put in there.
So that was probably it. 2014. I'm with the woman that I ended up ending my relationship with my ex-girlfriend, my oldest's mother that I cheated on, that was in the podcast and stuff. So she's like, take this. And I smoked it. Now I think there was nothing in it, but once again, I'm in Palo Alto, I think is the name, right? I'm on the porch. It's like November or December, almost completely naked. I'm in my boxers.
You're just a mess.
Nothing else. She's taking a shower.
Like when you smoke something, like what's your game? Like, how do you go into this?
I don't have a game plan.
All right, here's a joint. I'm going to smoke the entire joint.
No one gives me an instruction manual. They're just like, smoke this. I'm like, let's go with it.
You take one hit. Like, see, I'm new to the game, so I'm not the best advice giver, but like what I do is I take one hit and then I chill for an hour and I wait. Because them things have time bombs, man. That's like drinking like an 8% beer. You're like, this tastes like water. And like 9 beers later, you're like, where are my clothes?
No, there was no instruction manual. She's like, smoke this. I'm going to take a shower. I'm like, fine. I'm out on the porch messaging and calling people thinking I'm going to die. I'm leaving voicemails. Then before I know it, I'm crawling into the shower. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to die. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, just get me somewhere safe. So I ended up like upstairs, as cliche as it sounds, some movie, stroking a fuzzy pink carpet. Like, she's like, you got to breathe. And the whole time I'm never taking.
What were you smoking?
Well, I don't know. But the thing is, I had the heart issues. So remember, like my mother passed away from heart issues. My whole family died basically.
Yeah, sativas are probably not your thing.
No. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, so we have my mom that died from a heart attack at 44. We have all my aunts that died, all my uncles. Everyone's dead in my family. I'm like, this is how I'm going to go out half-ass naked, stroking a pink carpet. Luckily, I got through it and I never touched it again.
Yeah.
Until I found out I started digesting edibles easier to a point that I can just sit down and
just go slow. Like if someone offers you something, don't be like, oh, cool, Jack Daniels, I'll drink a bottle. Like, do a shot or half a shot and then just chill for like an hour or two and be like, oh, that shot did that.
Right.
And like you just can't be like an edible. I'll eat the whole thing.
Well, that's why I had an oatmeal cream pie once and he's like, cut it in like
in fourths.
Yeah, fourths. I'm like, I want to do half. He's like, no, just do it.
You're gonna do half and you're gonna be stroking a pink carpet again.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not good.
But yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've had a complete what would we say, complete plethora of marijuana to see how it affects me mentally with my issues.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the getting rid of the nonsense. But as sad as it may sound, I've never had that issue. Like, so we look at friendships. You said if there's toxic friendships.
Yeah.
Me, not to sound, high and mighty about it. I've always probably been the friend that someone wanted to have. I mean, we look like 2 months ago when I was at that academy. I had a guy message me. He's like, my car broke down. You know where I was? I was at his place of work in Pottsville. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. I don't have anything to feel tired.
Being that friend is exhausting, though.
Yeah, but I wasn't never, though. See, my friendships always dwindled. See, when we talked about Tom on the last podcast, who killed himself, who was my best friend, I always had friendships and held them to a higher degree.
Yeah.
And I knew to stay away from the toxic ones. But I found myself wanting to be a friend too much to people, but then getting burned at the end.
Yeah.
So I ended up walking away.
The struggle that I go with is I've always fought for acceptance because I was never really felt like I was accepted anywhere.
Right.
So I go above and beyond to be a good friend. And then I had to realize that like you can't do that for people who aren't going to willing to do that back for you. Like if they're always calling you to be like, hey, it's 3 a.m. Can you help me? But if you call them at 3 a.m. and they're just like, nah, man, I'm busy. Like that's not good. That's not a joint friendship.
No,
you're being used. Like,
yeah. But I've never had that though. See, besides Tom, who I hung out with. Yeah. So like this last academy, and I won't mention names out of respect of everyone. The 6 months there, I was giving rides to a guy nonstop. I never asked for gas money. I said, you know what? You're learning jiu-jitsu. You're bettering yourself. Right on. And you're the same one that called me for the broke down car. I didn't do much, but I was there and, it was cold. I'm like, get in the car, warm up, everything like that. These guys I developed a friendship with for 6 months. 6 months of choking each other out, fighting, seeing them, injured, going to competitions. You make friendships, but you also make deeper friendships when you're trying to fight each other.
Yeah.
And So 6 months I did this. Christmas came along, out of my own pocket. I bought everyone books, like, Bruce Lee philosophy books, books on fighting, bettering yourself. There's an Ethan Hawke novel about Ethan Hawke novel about being a knight. Like, he found this letter. It's a true story. It's like chivalry, all this stuff that related to fighting,
Mhm.
right? I had this falling out with the academy, and it's been 2 months. Not one has reached out and said, "Hey, are you all good? Hey,
Or can we work this out?
hey." Well,
Can we fix anything that might have been
not
damaged?
not even that. They weren't the point of the falling out. They weren't the point of it. So even if they didn't say that, I'd be like, "Well, you can't do anything."
So your beef wasn't with the academy, it was with a possible member?
It was
Without getting into like
with
names.
an instructor. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay. And then it was a little bit more than that. But the guys, we even had a name. It was called Gi Unit. And the gi is what you wear when you go to competition.
Yeah.
And we went to competitions together with breakfast and all that. So, I mean, and I was the kind of friend that was calling guys, "Hey, what's going on?" They had issues. I'd, give them the best advice I could.
Mhm.
Even a couple weeks after I was supposed to do a competition, the falling out happened. I missed the competition. One guy got hurt. I was on the phone with him, like, "Yo, tell me what's up."
Mhm.
It's been over a month. Nothing.
It's very interesting when you stop being the one to hit dial all the time,
Exactly.
and you're like, "I'm gonna not hit dial for a week," and then it turns into 2 weeks, and
Mhm.
then 3 weeks, and you're like, "Oh, the only reason this friendship was anything is because I was the one who was making the effort."
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole saying is, that whole saying, "I'm just too busy." Bullshit. I'm a father of almost three
Yeah.
with a job that does 12-hour shifts on a weekend. I come home and I got to take care of my little girl, get my stepson up for school.
Mhm.
I got to clean the house and stuff like that. Jiu-jitsu was say jiu-jitsu was 5 times a week, morning classes, evening classes. You know what? If you take a shit, and most of us are taking our phones with us, take a shit, you can send a text message.
Sure.
So when someone goes, "I'm too busy," I said, that's bullshit. Because I know
You're
like,
just not on their mind.
you're just not on the mind, or you just don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Because like I said, unless my phone's dead or charging, or my kid just comes in and rips it out of my hands, I have my phone on me when I'm in the bathroom.
Mhm.
Everyone has time for someone if they make the time. So when I hear people saying, "I was too busy," I said, "No, you weren't. You might have been busy at the moment, but like I said, you go to the bathroom, you check your phone before bed. We all know we check our phone as we wake up."
Yeah, I watched you watch 358 TikToks. You
Yeah.
can say what's up.
Yeah, no, in Snapchat, I've seen you post a TikTok video over and over and over again. But that's the thing, and I think that's another thing that attributes with mental health. I mean, the friendships, you look at Tom, who took his life, that was really before the heyday of social media, but we were there for one another. Now friendships are just a facade. And what it's done is, you see someone from, years ago or months ago, "Hey, we should hang out." You're not going to hang out with them.
Mhm.
What you will do is you will add them to social media so you feel better about yourself. So when they post the event, you'll just like it. And that's all you needed to do.
Yep.
Now, when checking in is, now we just need to like them. But social media in itself is fake, because we can make our lives look as shitty as we want or as good as we want.
Yeah.
I can post all the positive parts and make you seem like I'm doing fantastic, but inside my house is shambles.
Yeah.
And I'm going.
I've
shit.
been starting to post, like, I'm trying not to be like the woe is me guy, but like when I'm feeling sad is when I start posting positive stuff, because it's for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's more or less for me, like, all right, this is my motivation thing. And if somebody else gets something out of it, awesome. But I don't really use social media to check other people's stuff out, which is kind of shitty, but that's just the truth. But I also am running like 6 different social media accounts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard for me to see a lot of social media. So if I'm like liking someone's thing, that's because it came
Right.
across my timeline at the right time. But it's hard. But like, once again, I'm not in the norm though. Like, not many people are running
Multiple podcasts.
yeah, like 7 shows, and then also having a side hustle where you're building your personal brand, where you're being invited to like wrestling shows and breweries and stuff like that. So it's just because just like, I don't know when this is going to end for me. You know what I mean? Like, the day my body and my joint disorder just catches up with me, or if something gets crazy where like my disorder goes to my heart, or goes to a vein, or goes to an artery. Like, I don't know. I could be a time bomb. Like, it could be over for me tomorrow. So like, when I'm sitting at a job and I sit at a time clock, and I'm just like, is this important? Like, I'm doing this for a paycheck. Like, I could be doing stuff that can make me happy, because I might not be able to do this tomorrow. Like, like that kind of stuff is what makes me depressed now. But like, it motivates me more to work harder at this, to get to the point where I can focus on like more important, like, things in my life that I think will be more enjoyable. But yeah, it's fucking crazy, man. It's when you boil things down, you're trying to figure things out. It's challenging.
Well, that's how I feel like coming on 35. So most of my family died in their 40s. I'm only 5 years away from punching that time clock.
I literally just said to Heidi last night, like, I'm about to be 40, like I'm 5 years away from 40 as well. And it's like I never envisioned myself being 40 years old.
No.
Like as a young kid, I was like, there's no way I'll make it to 40. Because also hiding in deep inside of me, like I struggle with suicide. I was like, dude, I won't let myself get to 40. And then I meet Heidi. I'm like, fuck, I got to go past 40 because I can't just do that to her and leave the, you know what I mean? Like I found a purpose, I guess. And I keep finding more purposes, but it's just like, and we were just talking to her last night. I'm like, I can't see me being an old man. I can't see me being 67. Like I still to this day, like there's no way. There's no way. But but and then she's like, how do you think like that? I'm like, you're a different person. I don't know.
Well, that's what I said to Gabby. Gabby's like, oh, when your daughters are, I'm like, I'm not making it out to my like mid 40s. She's like, stop talking about that. But I always go back to it. I said, my mom died at 44.
Yeah.
My biological father was a little older, but then all my aunts and relatives. So every time I have a heart palpitation, I'm like, oh, this is it. Or something's gonna happen. But I've been able to fight it back. I think my last extreme case was I was in the Walmart parking lot and I wasn't gonna come home. And I conceal carry, so I have a Glock on me. And it was there. I had a friend of mine that works for, we'll just say she works for law enforcement or in that kind of category, messaging me that says, if you don't get a hold of me, I'm going to put the cops out on you. We're going to find you, answer your phone. And then Gabby's like, come home. And, the whole thing, when it hits bad, it hits bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that hasn't happened for a while. I will say that, without medication and stuff, what I've been able to do is try to bury it under layers.
Mm-hmm. You're doing the man thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, even that. It's to me, maybe most people can figure it out by talking about their issues. But once again, like you said, social media about TikTok, what I found a lot, and I'm not going to say I'm a veteran of mental issues, but what plays a part on people is I've seen a lot of people think maybe they have a mental issue, and maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass. But then I'll see the same people posting a TikTok video of a car driving down a lonely road with rain on the window, and they're listening to some kind of guy talking about depression. And I'm like, well, to me, if I was depressed, you would never know. You're just like, hey, Rich, what's going on?
You know what? Actually, like maybe you can relate to this, and maybe I'm just the only person in the world who does this. But when I'm not depressed, I use depressing shit to keep me out of depression. So sad songs make me happy.
Shine Down 45.
Yeah, like those songs make me like I don't listen to a sad song and be like, oh, I'm sad now. I'm like, oh, to me, when I hear sad songs, like depressing songs or quotes of depression, to me is like, cool, I'm not that mindset now. That's my positivity. That's my motivation to not be there.
Yeah. Now I'm like that. I used to feed on songs that would make it worse.
Yeah.
I used to, when I was in not the heyday of my issues going on, but when I was just running ragged, I would just like Shine Down 45 or just like some other songs that I knew would just cripple me at the knees. I'm like, I'm going to listen to this on repeat.
So I love
over and over and over and over.
That's why I love emo music.
Yeah. See? But it's hard to tell nowadays because I see a lot of people, and I'm always there for people. I said, hey, if you're going through an issue, shoot me a message. I'll talk to you.
Real quick, we have 5 people listening. If you're in the chat, if you don't want to talk about it or put it out there, you're more than welcome not to. But I'm going to encourage you. If you battle with any type of thing, anxiety, depression, or anything like that, what are some of your coping methods? What are some things that you do to help yourself get out of that? I'm curious in the chat. So if that's something you go through, if you go through depression or anxiety, post in the chat and say what are some things that you use to get you out of your funk. And maybe because for me anyway, doing this podcast is my thing. Like I open, like sometimes I'll have people in the comment section like, bro, you've never shut the fuck up, let your guest talk. But like this is just for much as me as it is for you. You know what I mean? Like my face is a logo for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like sure, I'm giving people,
let me talk.
Yeah, I'm giving people a platform, but also like I want to find that common ground with my guests.
Right.
The only thing I fucked up in the beginning, I should have never named it interviews. I should have been conversations. 100% should have been conversations with everyday people.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, the highlight to it and what people have said to me about it is it's just everyday people.
Yeah,
You know, and
that's the overall
draw to it. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's a 35-year-old former Marine that got kicked out that has kids that might be like me battling sex addiction and depression.
Yeah.
Shit, let me see
watches
what
weird porn. No, I'm joking.
watches, really weird porn. Sorry, Gabby. But as I got older, and that's the thing with everything is that's what it took to get over it.
Yeah.
Is just getting older and not taking that next step. You know, like Tom, bring him back, rest in peace. Tom had the world by the balls. He worked for the railroad and made immense amounts of money. He had a fish tank with weird fish I couldn't even describe to you. And he was my best friend. And he was suffering from nightmares. And the 1 minute I was hanging out with him, I sold him a gun, and I still don't know to this day. And if I think back to it, maybe it was the gun I sold him. Maybe it wasn't, because I was down on hard times. I get a call that he put a gun in his mouth and he just shot himself.
Yeah, that's something tough to live with.
Yeah, and who knows, if it was my gun or not my gun.
Mhm.
But on the outside, he had nothing going on. He didn't talk about anything that. And then his sister just said he suffered from bad nightmares. I'm like, what fucking nightmares do you suffer from?
And that's your best friend, and he wasn't willing to open up like that.
No, and I never knew. And I knew him since I got to high school, 2001. So we're talking about, 11 plus years.
Yeah, so Gabby says, I get to a breaking point and I have an anxiety attack. I cry, then I breathe, and I'm okay.
Yes.
There you go. This is beautiful. I appreciate this, everybody. Kaylee Williams says, my coping mech for me is writing. There you go. Well, I'm curious if you want to dive into more. Like, what do you write? Do you write about topic? Do you write stories, or do you write poems? What is your writing? What is your writing? I'm very curious. I love that. I think that's cool that people are willing to put themselves, like, that's for me is just putting it on Front Street.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm sad, I'm like, hey, guess what? I'm a sad crybaby bitch today, and I make a joke because that's just my humor. But then everyone's like, are you all right? I'm like, I'm good. I just need to say it out loud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just holding myself accountable.
I don't even say it's good for the part of just being the man part.
Yeah.
I will deal with it. Now Gabby does help in things, and I do reach out to certain people. And
Kaylee says poetry. That's beautiful. Thank you, Kaylee, for hanging out. I appreciate you.
And so for me, I just come numb to it all. I know that it's come in and out, and I haven't taken the extreme step. Obviously, I didn't put a Glock to my head and then that be it. I went home and everything like that. To me, as I get older, with my mother's issues, my mother passing away. And if people don't know, like, I found her dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then I gave her mouth to mouth, and she took that last breath, and that sat with me. I mean, geez, that probably sat with me. So she passed away in 2009. I probably didn't get over it, quote unquote, from maybe 2 or 3 years ago, still with Gabby.
Yeah.
I mean, Mother's Day was hard and stuff. Now, as bad as it says, she'll say stuff like, I don't know what to get my mom for Mother's Day. And I'll go, I don't know either what to get my mom. And then she'll just, I know it's bad, but
dark humor helps me out a lot.
Dark humor helps. And I'll get guys at work, shout out to Mark and Paul for it. But, Paul made a mom's joke, and I'm like, my mom's dead. And then they'll go like, yeah, but your dad. I'm like, my dad's dead. I'm like, what family member? And it's not that I do it on purpose. It's now at the point that I realize, like, hey, now after, 2009, I can't.
I'm like, all right, fuck you, Batman. I can't make fun of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just said, you know what? I can't keep, and I know people that's mothers have passed away, maybe around the time that, or family members, certain that I found out that keep dwelling on the fact. Now, if people don't know, I yelled at my mother before she died. So, like, I was laying down, she came in, asked me something about laundry. I screamed at her, and then 2 minutes later, she died.
Mm-hmm.
And that haunted me for a long time.
Yeah.
And, sex addiction, all that stuff came in. I just ran rampant, and I just used that until, like, my daughter started being born. I'm like, I can't dwell.
You find more purposes.
I find more purpose, and I just think, I'm like, what am I doing? So if I keep dwelling on this, and every Mother's Day that come along or a birthday, I just put myself in a pit. And a good quote is, you can dig a hole and sit there, just don't bury yourself in it.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to be, anyone's allowed to be depressed. Anyone's going to go through shit, especially nowadays with social media. Dig a hole, sit there, cry, do what you need to do, but don't start pulling the sand over you.
Yeah, you gotta be self-aware. I think you have to become self-aware to a point where, like, okay, I need to, like, it's with anything. If you're drowning and your bugaboo is, I don't know how to swim, you better teach yourself how to swim. Like, if you suffer with anxiety, if you suffer with depression, if you suffer from suicidal ideology, anything like that, like, okay, this is my weakness. I need to attack that weakness and figure out, in case of emergency, how do I get out of this situation? And that's where the self-awareness is going to help you grow. And if that awareness is a therapist, if that awareness is relying on other people for a while, that's great. But you always need to figure out more ways to get out of that situation.
Right.
And that's easier said than done. And I'm not saying for anyone it's just that easy, but that's the steps you need to take. You need to have that stuff. You need to become aware that this is my ailment, and how do I get out of that ailment? At least that's what I've been doing, and that helps me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, you're depressed. How are you getting out of it? Like,
Right.
is this going to help your situation? No, then fucking don't do that. Like, I don't get out. You don't want to get out of bed today. You want to sleep all day. Get the fuck out of bed. Get your stinky ass in the shower and go figure something out. Go, you know what I mean? Like, and that's essentially what you like. It's not easy, but like I said, the path of least resistance is never going to be the path of least resistance is never going to be the successful one. But if you kind of go against the grain, or you go against the water, that end result's going to be more gratifying.
Right.
When you get to it. Yeah.
And I blame in small part to it is social media. And like I said, to go back to it, it's I see people, and I don't know anymore what to differentiate between if someone has, and maybe they do, maybe they're battling with something, but I don't know if we're in a world where people are trying to find their purpose, that mental illness is just something to latch onto.
Sure.
Just because they need something to feel about themselves. Like, like I said, now it's different for me. Like I said, you would never know. And maybe some people are more outward appearance.
So your thing, sorry to cut you off. So your thing is more like, are people just saying they're sad and depressed and suicidal to fit in?
Right. And you can see that if you go to TikTok, there's thousands of TikToks of people make it public. Now, are they doing it because they're actually dealing with an issue, or do they need likes for their TikTok page because they know mental health is so big nowadays?
Sure. But I think at the end of the day, that's not energy you need to put yourself into.
But people do, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying for you.
Oh yeah, not
so,
yeah. No,
so
I don't even
for you to be like they're fucking faking a mental illness. That is just wasted energy.
No, yeah,
just fucking next video.
I'll have a little snippet to say about it, but the 9 times out of 10, I used
with
to
that little snippet.
Yeah,
is you feeding that energy?
Well, no, I have an intelligent. I like conversation. Like we could say with this, I'll give my opinion for it, but I won't say. Like, if Gabby asks me something, I'll be like, this is my input for it. But 9 times out of 10, I'm just swiping. I'm just because like you said, the energy into it. I don't comment. Now, there's a lot of stuff I could comment of. Yeah, I just don't care.
Oh, nothing's ever gonna get resolved in the comment section.
No, and it won't. And especially nowadays, where people are so much more divided nowadays than they I believe they ever were. If I put a comment, I mean, I seen today that a video, and what gets it too is there's so much conflict with people because no one looks deeper into it. Now, I'm not saying wasted energy, but for example, I seen a video today where a guy approached a judge and basically said, I'm broke. And they cut the video with the judge saying, can't you get an Uber? And they cut the video right there, right? The comment section was, the justice system is shit. That judge is terrible. That people are fighting all that. But and this is what I do, you can go to my Facebook page and look, I research. I don't take anything from Facebook. I don't believe shit.
Yeah.
I went to YouTube. And you know what that judge did? Awarded him money because this judge has a fund that he starts for people.
Yeah.
Gave him a $25 check for an Uber, cleared all his charges out that he had for his vehicle violation, removed the boot, gave him money, and then he went on.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, it's for face value. And that's why there's so much conflict, because we see it, we click it.
Yeah. Well, people are more entitled. Like, this will probably get maybe 60 views, but someone who does a skit where they pretend that they're gonna divorce their wife is gonna get millions of views. And it's like that they just pulled a skit. Like, that's not even real.
Yeah.
But you thought it was like how that's my biggest concern is when people just can't determine reality from not reality. That's concerning. But once again, that's not my energy of
no
it's not my energy to put out there. People are entitled to whatever gets you through your day. Like, if you want to fight, like, I got one time I commented this one guy, and I very, very rarely comment, but I'm starting to, because I want to change the comment section a little bit. But like, I commented this one dude who like took a photo of someone's grandfather, and it was like a destroyed photo, and he like redid it for the funeral and did everything cool. I'm like, dude, like, you're killing it. Like that. Like, that's just the way I talk. Right. I was like, dude, you're killing it. Like, that photo looks amazing. And someone wrote like, good choice of words, dude, because I said killing it and it was for something at a funeral. It's like, if you're just looking for something to be offended by, and me saying You're complimenting this guy's skill in Photoshop and making somebody happy and just using my terminology of killing it. And you just needed to latch onto that because you associated that with him dying. That's on you. That's not on me.
No.
And I literally commented back, I love you. And it ended. He never commented
I probably
back.
wouldn't have just said anything.
Yeah, I just wrote, I love you.
There you go.
I wrote, I love you.
Yeah.
And it never went any further because they were just like, I don't know how to take this. Because like if I would have been like, if I would have said what I said, like, dude, you're literally looking for an argument here. They're like, then you're racist, and I hate. Like, it would have just went on and on and on. And so I just went, I love you. Yeah. Like when someone road rages at me and they're like beeping, I just wave or I blow a kiss.
I'm not at that point.
Yeah, I just blow. I wave and I blow a kiss, and then it's all over.
Yeah.
And they're like, did he just blow a fucking kiss? I'm just gonna move on.
Well, if I know someone blows me a kiss now, I know
it's totally me.
Yeah,
or if they wave like an idiot, like Dumb and Dumber wave you,
yeah,
that's me. Where we at? What's up, homie? I'm like, oh, Craig, you're not racist, Tony. Stop. No. I'm saying in the context, if I were to get in an argument, I have tattoos and long hair and I'm white. People
usually
would.
Yeah,
I love that too. When I'm at the job and people are like, well, you're not like every other white guy racist. I'm like, yeah, it's because I'm not white. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, I have that at my job sometimes. There's a lot of
fucking clans.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Craig. Get shot again. I'm joking. See, that's how I can joke with my brother.
I hear a lot of things too about that. But yeah, I mean,
real quick, Craig, we need to get in contact. I need to have a conversation with you again, just a one-on-one, not like me, you, and 500 rappers. Like I want to talk with you. I think that'd be funny. But anyway, I'm sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, like I said, where I put my energy being older and the life experiences is I try to help people as much as out. But
yeah,
do they actually take the help? And does talking actually take it out? I mean, to me,
it's official. It's a black guy in the comments saying I'm racist. I'm done. I'm canceled.
Done. I'm walking out right now.
It's over. Then you're associated.
I don't want to be associated.
You're
anymore.
done. We're both done.
I'm gonna have to put out a statement after this podcast. Everything that was.
I don't condone Tony Blackwell.
But yeah, I mean, I try to help as much as can, especially from Tom's issues, and talk to people about it. But a lot of people don't take it. So I mean, I don't really know what to do. I'm there, but I don't reach out as far as I do anymore.
Yeah.
I tell people that I'm always there. I don't say I'm sorry about most shit because, what people go through is different from what I went through, even though not to toot my own horn, I went through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But I don't tell, someone's parent passes away. Someone says, I don't say I'm sorry. I don't that because it seems weak at a part. I just say, I hope you find strength. But I ask them if they need to talk to it. But I don't even know, for me, talking about it doesn't really help much issues. Because, I mean, I could say to you or Gabby, I could say, we're dealing with this, and I tell you, but it doesn't resolve the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's hard today to talk to people about it because I don't feel like anyone there. It feels like they're more seeking public attention when it comes to issues like these, more than actually resolving the matter that's going on inside.
Yeah. Yeah, he just said not many people have the balls to talk. It's easier to be offended. I agree. Like, it's just tough. Like, I love the fact that I love talking to other people of all walks. Like, I listen, and there's times just even recently, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but there's just certain conversations I won't entertain. I will, but to an extent, right? So I would love to talk to someone who genuinely is racist or genuinely is homophobic or transphobic or whatever that may be. Just to find I'm not trying to change your opinion because that's your opinion. I don't agree with you at all. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, when I say you, I don't mean you as in my guest. I'm saying you as the person hypothetically I'm talking to. But I just had some conversations where I was like, hey, I'm gonna have to cancel some stuff because I don't know exactly where you lie, and I don't want my first conversation to maybe possibly giving a platform to something I don't stand for. You know what I mean?
I'm at the whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, sure. If what makes you happy is you want to dive into political stuff and you want to go that route, then go for it. But I'm just not going to entertain that.
Right.
We're just too much of that right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. It's really hard. Hold on, what we got here? Everybody is woke and angry and looking for arguments. I totally agree. But that's where I try to do that platform where I take a different approach at it. But is there anything in close, getting close to the end here that you want to that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
No, I just to anyone listening, I mean, if you're going through some stuff, I mean, all my experience, 35 now, my whole family was basically dead before my first daughter was born in 2014. I got kicked out of the Marine Corps. I battled with drug addiction. I still battle with depression. I mean, the best thing I could say to you is even if you don't want to talk, at least try to find some kind of outlet, whether it's, jujitsu, like you were saying, whether it's cutting out squares, whether it's doing this or that, but just don't give up. I mean, there were plenty of times, trust me, I attempted suicide twice in my life and it didn't pan out. And now I'm going on to having 3 daughters. I have a stepson. My relationship's going on 6 years now. I'm doing all right. Do I want to be better in my life? Of course, I want to improve a lot of things. But the thing is you got to hold on to something, whether it's a conversation. I mean, even if you don't know me, message me. I mean, that's fine if you want to talk. I love having conversations. That's why when you're like, Rich, you want to come back on? I'm like, yes, it was a conversation, which is lacking, I feel, today, because everything's just abbreviated, cut down, and short to the point. People are like, okay, thumbs up, all that other crap.
Yeah.
But just keep pushing on, but just don't go on the things that push you back down. Now, like we said, like music. Now, my big problem was I kept going back to sad music and stuff like that. And you're gonna have that. That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna fight that. But my biggest thing is like that quote, and I don't know who said it. It's that you could dig a hole, sit there, cry, deal with it, but just don't start pulling the sand or dirt over you and lay there, because that's what's gonna happen. You got to reach out, because some people, and how people say, check on your strongest friend. Like I said, my friend Tom, who I knew since 2001, strength 2005, 2012, he just woke up one day and shot himself.
Yeah.
I mean, hang in there, connect with someone, look for true meaningful conversations, and find something beautiful, or something that, to me, like I said, I like to struggle. I like to get choked out and bent out this pretzel, but find something that can breathe some life or something into you, and just don't give up.
Totally. So yeah, that's that. We're gonna wrap on that. I want to thank you for coming back on.
Yeah, of course.
The door's always open. We could, like, listen, this is not the
Star Wars.
Yeah, you can come back on the Star Wars or any of those shows. But so I want to, like, I know for a while there people are like, man, I'm glad. I had some people reach out and like, I'm really, really thankful you brought back interviews, because I took a huge break from it, because I wanted to establish the other 4 shows and then really hit the ground running with this one. So people who have been supporting the return of interviews at Everyday People, thank you. I do have tons and tons of more. I'm literally booked till August. So every Monday from now till August. And then I just found out, I think I knew this, I just didn't know this, but the studio that we record at, Cabana Entertainment, does have internet. So the episodes that I would have normally done as a on location, they're actually going to be live now. So next Monday we're going to be live from Cabana Entertainment with the band Take the Name. So I have to reach out to them, make sure they're still on board. And then from there, for May, I have another band called Hoodly Blah. I don't know. So I have a lot of, like, tons of cool stuff. But thank you all so much for the support. Interviews Everyday People. If you can grab merchandise, cool. If you can grab Patreon stuff, you cool. Just share, tell your friends this exists, and I'm always down to have more conversation with people. So let's do that. And thank you so much for coming back and hanging out.
Yeah,
Interviews Everyday People 125.
Oh yeah.
Thank you all for commenting too. Let me go through this real quick. Gabby, thank you for commenting. Katie Williams, no idea who you are, but that's beautiful. Thank you. I need all the help I can get on YouTube. So if you are watching this on Facebook, please head over to the YouTube and just hit subscribe. We're we're like halfway to 1,000, and 1,000, like, YouTube has to pay us, and it doesn't cost you anything. So we're like at 400 or 500. So if you can go over to YouTube and subscribe, that would be helpful, or tell your friends to subscribe or share this from YouTube. But yeah, and then Craig, my little brother, my little big brother, the fucking kid's tall as hell now. And then former guest, Mike was a blast hanging out this season. So thank you guys so much for the support. Everyone who commented and liked, share, subscribe, thank you. You guys all mean the world to me. We'll see you next time. We're Interviews Everyday People. We're out of here.